Sammy Davis Jr. walked into the Apollo Theater's back room in 1962, looking for a quiet drink, not a new star. But when he heard a 16-year-old kid singing in the corner with a voice that made Sammy stop mid-conversation, he walked over and said 5 words that changed music history. "Kid, you're coming with me." It was November 18, 1962, and Sammy Davis Jr. was at the height of his fame. At 37, he had conquered every entertainment medium: records, television, movies, Broadway, Las Vegas. He was performing at the Apollo Theater that week, the crown jewel of Harlem's entertainment scene, and had just finished his second show of the evening to a packed, ecstatic audience. Sammy was exhausted. The Apollo audiences demanded everything you had, and he'd given them everything and more. His dressing room was crowded with admirers, industry people, and hangers-on, all wanting a piece of his time and attention. All Sammy wanted was 15 minutes of quiet to decompress before heading back to his hotel. That's why he slipped out the stage door and made his way to Minton's back room, a small, dimly lit space behind the main Apollo Theater, where performers could grab a drink and unwind away from the crowds. It was an unwritten rule that fans and press weren't allowed back there. It was sacred space for the artists. The room was nearly empty when Sammy walked in, just a handful of musicians and theater workers scattered around small tables. Perfect. Sammy found a corner booth, ordered a scotch, and finally allowed his shoulders to relax for the first time in hours. That's when he heard it. From somewhere in the shadows at the far end of the room came a voice that made Sammy's conversation with the waitress stop mid-sentence. It was a young voice, male, but with a richness and depth that seemed impossible for someone so young. The kid was singing Summertime, a cappella, no instruments, just pure voice. But what stopped Sammy cold wasn't just the technical ability, though that was extraordinary. It was the soul in that voice. This kid was singing with the kind of emotional depth that usually took decades to develop. He was making that song his own, finding notes and phrasings that Sammy had never heard before, even though he'd performed Summertime hundreds of times himself. Sammy forgot about his drink, forgot about his exhaustion, forgot about wanting to be alone. He stood up and followed that voice into the shadows. In the corner, sitting on a wooden crate next to an old upright piano, was a black teenager who couldn't have been more than 16 or 17. He was thin, wearing a worn but clean white shirt, and dark pants that had been mended more than once. His eyes were closed as he sang, completely lost in the music, unaware that anyone was listening. The kid finished Summertime, and immediately transitioned into Georgia on My Mind, his voice effortlessly shifting from the haunting melancholy of Gershwin to the soulful yearning of Hoagy Carmichael. Each song was perfect, but more than perfect, each song was transformed by this young man's unique interpretation. Sammy moved closer, trying to get a better look at this remarkable young singer. As he did, the kid's eyes opened, and he saw Sammy Davis Jr. standing there, watching him with intense concentration. The singing stopped immediately. The teenager's eyes went wide with shock and something close to panic. "Oh my God," the kid whispered. "Mr. Davis, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were. I work here, I clean up after shows, and I was just—" "What's your name?" Sammy interrupted gently. "Marcus, sir. Marcus Williams. I clean the dressing rooms and sweep up after the shows. I wasn't supposed to be singing. I know the back room is for performers. I just thought everyone had gone home." "Marcus," Sammy said, cutting off the nervous stream of words. "How old are you?" 16, Mr. Davis. Sammy shook his head in amazement. 16 years old, and singing like he'd lived 3 lifetimes. "Who taught you to sing like that?" "My grandmother, mostly. She sang in the church choir back in South Carolina. But I've been listening to records. Your records, Mr. Davis, and Nat King Cole, and Billy Exton, and Sam Cooke. I save up my money from working here to buy records." Sammy felt something shift in his chest. This kid reminded him of himself at that age. Hungry, talented, desperate for someone to notice, to care, to believe that what he had inside him was worth something. Marcus, Sammy said, sitting down on a chair across from the teenager. I've been in this business for 30 years. I've heard every kind of singer you can imagine. What you just did, what I just heard, that's not something you can teach. That comes from somewhere deeper. Marcus looked like he wasn't sure if he was in trouble or being complimented. You work here cleaning dressing rooms, Sammy continued, but you should be performing on that stage out there. That voice belongs in front of audiences, not hidden in back rooms. Mr. Davis, I appreciate that, but I'm nobody. I'm just a kid from the South who's good at carrying a tune. I don't have connections or training. Or, you have something more important than connections, Sammy interrupted. You have a gift, a real gift. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Marcus stared at him. What do you mean? Sammy stood up, his mind already racing with possibilities. I mean, I'm going to help you do something with that voice. But first, I need to know, are you serious about this? About singing? About music? Because if you really are, then your life is about to change. Mr. Davis, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm saying you're coming with me, tomorrow, to my recording session. There are people you need to meet, things you need to learn, and a career we need to start building. Marcus looked like he'd been struck by lightning. I have school, and my job here, and how much do they pay you to clean dressing rooms? $15 a week. I'll pay you $50 a week to learn how to be a professional singer. School can wait. This can't. The offer hung in the air like electricity. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, then asked the question that was really on his mind. Mr. Davis, why are you doing this? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Sammy thought about Bill Graham discovering him in a small club, about all the people who had taken chances on him when he was young and unknown and desperate for an opportunity. Marcus, when I was about your age, I was performing in small clubs, dreaming of making it big. A promoter named Bill Graham saw something in me and gave me a chance. That chance changed my life. Now I'm hearing something in you and I want to give you the same chance. But what if I'm not good enough? What if I disappoint you? What if you are good enough? What if you don't disappoint me? What if that voice I just heard is exactly what the world needs to hear right now? Sammy reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. Here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., you're going to come to Bell Sound Studios on West 37th Street. Ask for Sammy Davis Jr. Session. They'll know what you're talking about. Marcus took the card with shaking hands. What do I tell my grandmother? My boss? Tell them Sammy Davis Jr. is giving you a shot at your dreams. Tell them this is your chance. The next afternoon, Marcus Williams walked into Bell Sound Studios wearing his best clothes, the same white shirt from the night before, freshly pressed, and his only pair of good shoes. He was terrified and excited and completely out of his element. Sammy was already there with a full band, working on arrangements for his upcoming album. When he saw Marcus walk in, he stopped the session. Gentlemen, Sammy announced to the room full of seasoned musicians, I want you to meet Marcus Williams. He's 16 years old, and he has one of the best voices I've heard in years. We're going to help him make his first recording. The musicians looked skeptical. They'd seen plenty of young hopefuls come and go, but when Sammy asked Marcus to sing Summertime, the same song he'd been singing in the back room, their skepticism evaporated. The room fell completely silent as Marcus sang. These were professional musicians who'd heard everything, played with everyone, and they were stunned by what they were hearing. When Marcus finished, there was a moment of absolute quiet. Then someone started clapping, and soon the entire room was applauding. Jesus Christ, Sammy, said the piano player. Where did you find this kid? Over the next 6 months, Sammy took Marcus under his wing in the most comprehensive way possible. He didn't just teach him about singing. He taught him about the entertainment business, about how to carry himself professionally, about handling money and contracts, and the pressures of fame. Marcus lived in Sammy's guest house in Hollywood, attended private vocal coaching sessions, worked with movement coaches to develop his stage presence, and most importantly, absorbed everything he could from watching Sammy work. The voice is just the beginning. Sammy told Marcus during one of their evening conversations, "What separates good singers from great entertainers is everything else. How you connect with audiences, how you interpret a song, how you make people feel something they didn't expect to feel." Marcus soaked up everything like a sponge. He watched Sammy's recording sessions, attended his performances, met industry legends who came to Sammy's house for dinner. He was getting a master class in entertainment from one of the greatest entertainers who ever lived. In April 1963, Marcus Williams released his first single, produced by Sammy Davis Jr. It was a soulful ballad called "Find Your Way Home," written specifically for Marcus's voice by a young songwriter Sammy had discovered. The song was an immediate hit on R&B radio, climbing to number 3 on the charts. But more than commercial success, it announced the arrival of a major new talent. Critics called Marcus the most promising young voice in soul music and praised Sammy for his mentorship and production work. For Marcus, the success was overwhelming but grounding at the same time. Sammy had prepared him well for the pressures and temptations that came with sudden fame. "Remember why you're doing this," Sammy told him as they celebrated the song's success. "You're doing it because music moves people, because your voice can make someone feel less alone, because art matters. Never forget that." Over the next few years, Marcus Williams became one of the defining voices of 1960s soul music. His albums consistently hit the top of the R&B charts, and his live performances were legendary. He influenced a generation of singers, including a young Stevie Wonder and later Michael Jackson, who both cited Marcus as a major inspiration. But perhaps more importantly, Marcus followed Sammy's example when it came to nurturing young talent. Throughout his career, he made it a point to discover and mentor promising young singers, passing on the lessons that Sammy had taught him. In a 1975 interview, Marcus reflected on that night in the Apollo's back room. "Sammy Davis Jr. didn't just discover my voice that night. He discovered my potential as a human being. He taught me that talent is a responsibility, not just a gift. When you can sing, when you can move people with your art, you have an obligation to use that gift to lift up others." And Sammy, reflecting on his decision to mentor Marcus, said something that revealed the depth of his understanding about legacy. "I didn't discover Marcus Williams to create another hit record or to add another successful artist to my resume. I discovered him because I remembered what it felt like to be young and talented and invisible. Someone believed in me when I needed it most. Passing that belief forward isn't just good business, it's good humanity." Marcus Williams went on to have a career that spanned 4 decades. He sold over 20 million records worldwide, won multiple Grammy Awards, and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But when people asked him about his greatest achievement, he always talked about the young singers he had discovered and mentored over the years. The chain of mentorship that began with Bill Graham discovering Sammy and continued with Sammy discovering Marcus became a model for how established artists could nurture the next generation. It proved that the greatest legacy an artist could leave wasn't just their own work, but the careers they helped create. Today, when music historians talk about the development of soul music in the 1960s, they always mention Marcus Williams as one of the pivotal figures. But the story of his discovery, a 16-year-old janitor singing in a back room, heard by an established star who recognized something special, has become legendary in its own right. It's a reminder that talent can emerge anywhere, at any time, and that sometimes the most important thing a successful artist can do is keep their ears open for the next voice that might change everything. Years later, when Marcus Williams discovered a young Whitney Houston singing in a New Jersey church and helped launch her career, he said it perfectly. "This is how it's supposed to work. You find someone with a gift, you help them develop it, and then they find someone else. The music never stops. It just finds new voices." If this incredible story of mentorship, instant recognition, and the power of believing in young talent inspired you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and share this video with any young artist who needs to hear that their big break might be one song away. Have you ever had someone believe in your abilities and change your trajectory? Let us know in the comments about the mentors who made a difference in your life, and don't forget to ring that notification bell for more amazing stories about the moments when established legends create new legends.